Persistence, paint, and pain. Flipping to a $3 million property portfolio. That is what this session is all about. And to be honest, this really is one of these investor stories that motivates you and gets you out of bed to actually push forward. There's a thing that Jeff says in here: normalize, don't idolize these property investors. And Esther, Beattie is on our show tonight, and together with her husband Murray, they have created an incredible property portfolio from hard work by buying the right properties in the right locations at the right price at the right time, putting in some sweat equity, getting that equity out, then to continue to grow the portfolio and push it. These guys are not the high-flying, Ferrari-driving people that you see on all of these ads. Guys, these are normal, everyday people that have crushed it in property investing because they've taken the right steps. And that's what we unpack. We unpack their story. I love this session. So if you guys don't know who we are, my name's Joe, and together with Jeff, we created Oz Property Investors, Australia's largest property investment community. And each week, we interview top property experts and also everyday investors about how they go about investing in property so that we don't have to make the same mistakes that they made to get to where they are. And hopefully we can get some results that are similar to theirs. This session's exactly that. It's Esther just diving deep into her experience of purchasing these properties, and then none of them are crazy values. I don't think any of them were above $400,000. So they are now because they've grown, but these types of strategies are commonplace and you can still do it. So don't feel scared if you don't have enough money. You can actually go out there and do it. It might not be the flashiest property in, the capital city, but there is value that you can keep creating. Anyway, let's jump in. You'll enjoy this one, I bet.
And we are live on Oz Property Investors. We're bringing up big names and we have the big fun. How are you going, everyone in Facebook land? This is going to be a big session because everybody's talking about those multi-million-dollar property portfolios, but very few have had to sort of go through some of the pain and the painting and the persistence that Esther has gone to. And you're just, I listened to your story and you did reach out to me, and you're a super persistent to jump on to share that value. So what's that? Oh, it's probably me. It is me. So, Esther, how are you going tonight? What's happening?
I'm pretty good, thanks, Jeff. I'm holed away in our bedroom because I've got screaming kids and a cyclone on our front doorstep. So I'm in here with a bottle of red and YouTube and a lock on the door. So ready to have a good chat.
Yeah, it's super interesting, this whole cyclone thing. There are people that are really building it up to be the biggest, scariest thing ever, and then there are people like, nah, it's just going to be another one of these storm in a teacup because the media's run out of things to talk about. I don't know.
We can only hope.
Is Brisbane going to be underwater, Joe? When is Brisbane going underwater? No, I shouldn't say so. I'm sorry, but no. How are you going anyway, Joe? What's happening?
Mate, I'm very good. I'm very excited. I'm excited for this one because Esther, we're just having a chat off air, and Esther's kind of done the right property at the right time in the right place and optimized the strategy and adjusted the strategy as things changed, and just proof that you don't have to be a millionaire to become a millionaire, to kind of make something of yourself in the property investing game. You've worked your ass off and strategically built, and then your knowledge built upon, and your portfolio then grew. And they're the inspiring stories that when I was starting investing, I was really keen to understand. Just normal everyday people doing the right things, and what are those things, and how do you kind of get there? I'm excited, mate. Jeff, how are you, mate?
Yeah, I'm good. I feel like I've been just shut up in a room for a couple of months and just cooking away sort of content and wisdom and gold. But no, this is going to be an amazing session, and you really teased it quite nicely, Joe, because you were saying Esther, and I'm just excited to get another investor on the show. We're going to have a few investors coming up as well along the way. But who is Esther? You are a wife, mother of two, and a painter and decorator. So we tease a little bit of that on the YouTube sort of poster. You're passionate about investing as well, and you started. I'd love to hear that. We'll hear that origin story. But you found value in the ugly ducklings that others would pass by, and many trials and tribulations, and sort of, you're passionate about horses as well, and that's sort of part of your why. And you've found a formula that works for you and your family. So that's what we're here to share today, and how to sort of overcome that borrowing capacity and then rethink about that once you hit the borrowing wall as well. So stay tuned for that. So let's get into the first sort of question. I want to know, what is it that got you motivated? What got you started in property investing, or who was it?
Well, it was definitely my husband, Murray. When we first met, I had no idea that investing was actually a way to build wealth. I thought it was something wealthy people already did. I have memories of him laying in the hammock, listening to property podcasts, and he would rattle on about them to me while I was inside breastfeeding our firstborn. And then it was when we were at work together one day, he's like, oh, I'm just going to put on a podcast. I really want you to listen to this. And I think it was like Property Story or something like that. And it was a investing story from a couple who had started renovating and flipping houses. And then from there, it just fed into the monster. Like, he calls me the property monster now. So from there, it just grew and grew and grew, all this momentum where I was like, definitely those everyday investor stories and hearing people going from like nothing to having this amazing income stream and property, just everyday hardworking Australians. And I went, oh, this is what it's about. And this feels like something we could actually achieve. We could definitely do this.
You're definitely not the property monster. Some people are saying, so Jeremy, big accountant, saying the rose between two thorns. So no, that's I remember sort of back in the day listening to this property podcast as well and just thinking, wow, like these people are put up on a pedestal, and it's just amazing to interview some of those people now, but also just be like, this is actually very doable. It's like, as Toddy Stein said, don't idolize, normalize kind of thing. Like, you can actually do these crazy stories that you hear, but that's and so how did it sort of evolve? So you had property podcasts, and it was sort of a bit of an exciting. Where to go from there?
Well, we tried off and on for quite a few years, and we couldn't quite get our borrowing to happen. In the end, it was our accountants. Well, we gone through like multiple accountants, because like you just can't be emotional about them. You can't be loyal. You've just got to go. You're not servicing me, so go. We kept just struggling with the accountants because we would try to say to them, we want to pay tax because we want to get lending. And they'd be like, oh yeah, we'll try and get this sweet spot. We'll save you a bit on tax, but you'll still be able to get a loan. Nah, if you want to get lending, you have to pay tax. It took us a couple of years. It was right in that COVID boom where we finally got, some good enough income on the books. I think we spoke to a broker or someone said to us, this is how much you need to earn to be able to borrow anything. We actually linked up with one broker who had talked themselves up and then turned around to us and said, oh, no, you can't get anything. Then 2 weeks later, another broker said to us, oh, yeah, you've got $1 million buying power. Wow. And they got us I think we redrew equity on our home loan to use as a deposit, and then we were able to get another loan of about 700,000. So we had over 900 grand that we were able to spend.
That's insane.
Sorry. Yeah. No. Were you running it as a business? Like, you were running a business at that point in time. So you.
Yeah,
were
we were doing the painting. Yeah. So like I said to you guys the other day when we chatted, I've never had an actual career. I didn't finish high school. I've counted up about 30 something jobs that I had. I didn't stick to an actual career until I started the painting with Murray as his apprentice. And
you're
that
unemployable.
was because, well, it's very employable. I just didn't want to stay. I get bored.
Okay. It's not them, it's you. Sorry, it's not you, it's them.
Exactly. Yeah, I am whatever I do, I get really passionate. And unfortunately, when you're working for other people, you don't get reward for that. You're just another number. So I am, you get people that do really well working in companies and working in a ladder kind of setup. And then you get other people that just have to be self-employed. And I'm one of those people. I can work with my husband, but him as my boss, if I don't like something he's saying, it's very easy for me to go back at him. You can't really do that in a regular workplace. So we were doing our painting business. And then, the only reason I've been able to stick at it is because I had something to drive for. Like the painting is our everyday bread and butter, but it allows us to get into our investing, which is our long-term goal. We want to invest and we want to be able to retire on our own terms, and we want to have a legacy to leave for our kids. We want to be comfortable. We don't want to be working until we can't work anymore. We want, it's not like we enjoy our work and we enjoy working together, but we're not painting because we love to paint every day. We're painting to buy houses.
Oh, I love that mindset you've brought to the table here. Like you are absolutely sort of focused, and that's a thing that I don't necessarily see in a lot of people. They're like, okay, they focus purely on where do I buy, or my borrowing capacity is not there. You're focused on, okay, I'm going to buy a property. It's going to happen. It's not if, it's when, and it's what do we need to do to make that happen. So how did you cultivate that sort of approach to thinking? Was there anything special you did?
Oh, I don't know. A lot of trial and error and just living through things. Like, you live and learn. You just got to be open to taking on, like the universe has got so much to teach you, and you just got to be open to taking these things in and learning from them. Like I didn't always have that sort of positive mindset. Like I've had a pretty miserable mindset when I was younger. And the thing with us as people is you can always be a better person. You can always better yourself. You can always better your position in life if you want to. If you want to be in a better position, you can always do things to make it better. So
are there any resources that you kind of use to get out of that funk, out of that funk, or change that mindset around money and finances and self-worth and things?
Oh, I don't know. I got to think on that. I know definitely a hell of a lot of podcasts, a hell of a lot, like because of the type of work we do.
A lot of it is I heard a great saying, it's not there's no golden bullet. It's a lot of tiny little BB balls,
it's just
right? It's
ongoing
just
and like you
adding.
get knocked down, you get back up again. Like that first property we purchased where we had the 900 plus buying power, and we went, let's just spend as much as we can on one property. And we bought a single unit in a duplex pair 200 meters down the road. And in the middle of COVID.
Was that was the first purchase?
So so Murray owned our original home before we met, and we used the equity in that. This was supposed to be an investment, our first purchase. And knowing what I know now, I would have gone elsewhere and bought multiple investment properties. But yeah, at the same time, we were able to flip that into a positive because of the outcome of that. We didn't make money on that property, but it helped us into the next stage.
How did it help you? And how did you come up with that area and that property, and that's like, how did you end up with that deal?
Too much emotion. That's like the number one rule in investing. And I say to these people all the time, even with horses and everything, you've got to take the emotion out of it. When it comes to buying and selling, you've got to take emotion out of it because, we wanted to stay living where we lived.
Yep.
For some reason, we thought it was better to buy a property that we could move into. We were pretty tired of the house we were living in because the layout of it was not great. And we didn't have the funds to extend the way that we wanted to extend. So, we decided to move into this unit, but having the unit allowed us to then have the confidence to sell the original investment, the original primary place of residence. So the way we figured was like, worst case scenario, we can't buy another house to move into and we stay in the duplex. Best case scenario, we sell that and we buy something else. And that's exactly what we did. We got like a roaring deal. And this house had just come on the market. It was an old Coppers Logs cabin, like complete renovator. People walking into it thought it was a knockdown. It had all the pine cladding on the walls inside. The backyard was like fully, like it was hideous. And then so when we bought that house, which we're in now, it's beautiful. This used to be revolting brick. It was just dark red brick with really porous concrete all through it and wasp nests. And now it's been rendered. So, and the rest of the house, we did just like a massive gut and reno. So when we bought this house, so we rented it out for 6 or 7 months, and then we decided to flip the unit. So we sold that, and we did a huge renovation on this. And in the meantime, while we owned the 2 houses here, we bought our first property in Rockhampton.
Wow. So how did you sort of go from sort of, okay, we're going to end up buying down the road, and now it's like Rockhampton? Was it through asking questions? Like, how did you get to that location?
Yeah, definitely through networking and Facebook groups. I'm, like you said, I was so persistent contacting you guys about wanting to share my story in more depth. I don't know if it's partially because I'm not always that great at reading social cues, but I'm not afraid of putting myself out there and contacting people. So I networked, I rang around, I linked up with a lovely established investor who's actually ended up as a mentor. I linked up to him through our broker, and then he helped us to find this location. And he said, look, Rockhampton is starting to warm up. Like, because I said, we don't have much borrowing capacity. We can spend a maximum 250K. And this was when our accountant, who was it? It was our accountant or our broker suggested we go into a trust format, because our personal borrowing capacity was pretty much capped out, which is why we only had 250K to spend.
So at this point, you had one PPOR, and then you had one investment property as a unit / duplex that was right next to you that you're going to renovate. And then you then are kind of tapping out from a borrowing capacity because you only had about 900,000 at the time. And then you're like, great, $250,000. Where in Australia can I go ahead and buy? And through the research and networking, you found Rocky was the way to go. Okay. But then the broker's like, hold on, if you used all of that borrowing capacity, you might not be able to go and buy your next deal.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and so
rate of trust. So what was the point behind the trust, actually? That's probably a better question.
The trust was our mortgage broker was very creative. And she told us that given our circumstances, given the assets we held in our personal name, and what is that just came
just
up?
A little disclaimer.
Distracted me. Sorry.
This is financial advice. Please speak to your professional.
Yeah, no, it's not. Where was I at? So basically we were told if we purchased in a trust capacity, that was completely separate from our personal name. It was separate from our business. And it also meant that there were certain lenders that wouldn't look at what we held in that trust. So then we could roll that over into another purchase, which is why the next, how many have we got? Yeah, the next 3 purchases were also purchased in trusts. Just to keep it all separate and keep that borrowing capacity rolling over. So we just,
How did because it's let's timestamp. So we're in about 2022 roughly, or are we 2021? Where are we sort of, or 2020? Yeah.
So I have written it down. We purchased the unit in 2021. We didn't manage to buy another property until 2023. And then between May 2023 and July 2024 is when we did 4 purchases and I think it was 2 sales.
There we go.
So
in 2022, you did 4 purchases, so 6 transactions.
No, between.
No, this was in just over a year.
Massive.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
and
Incredible.
and that's
On a feeding
that's
frenzy.
interesting. Yeah, it's interesting that you were able to sort of then sort of realize that because what I was going to say is interest rates had already started going up. But had you sort of did you purchase that first one in 2023? Did you up in Rockhampton?
Yeah, and the interest rates were still, I think they'd begun to come up then.
Yep.
But for us, we were seeing everyone was talking doom and gloom. So we were like, yes. Everyone else is scared. Let's buy. If we can buy, our motto is like, if we can buy, we buy. It's not like a matter of, trying to time the market perfectly. I think there's always a deal to be had. You just need to work out where and what that deal is. But I would much rather be buying when other people are frightened of buying.
Yeah, that's such a great point of just don't listen to the noise. Whatever's out there, you're going to be in a position, and also your situation is going to change. So, like if you don't move fast with the capacity and the borrowing and the lending and the situation and the cash that you've got, you're going to then have a baby and then it's going to fundamentally change, or something else is going to happen in your life situation. And then you're like, oh, should have bought it. Like the business, right? The business, you're going to be like, great, we need to invest in a new truck for the painting, and that's going to ruin all of our capacity. So it's like, great, let's move now, take action, make it happen. And also delaying it. Like you said, what was it, 4 purchases in? Yeah. What's that?
Oh, you never know what's going to happen. You don't.
Yeah. And if you just delay and delay and delay, it's just like if you didn't buy those 4 properties, you would be hundreds of thousands of dollars poorer because you didn't take action.
Probably
and
$1 million,
fundamentally
almost $1 million in I think it's probably was more, wasn't it?
Jesus. Yeah. Incredible.
And it's one of those things people will not want to take action and they won't want to purchase because they look at what could have been in the past. But the way we look back, and so before Murray and I were together, after he purchased the first house, because he paid $380 for that, and when we eventually sold that, it sold for 1.4. At the time when he purchased that, he knew about investing, and he then wanted and tried to buy other properties, and he didn't have the knowledge and he didn't have the right people around him, and was sort of frightened off actually taking it right through to the end. And it's the same thing. It's like, well, he could have been millions of dollars better off, because those deals now, those houses are worth, like, they grew substantially well. But we try to think that everything happens for a reason. And I just remind him, if he had have bought those houses, he never would have come down to Victoria where we met. We wouldn't be on the journey that we're on now. So, like, we're just got to hustle.
Exactly.
Got to just make things work for us in the situation that we're in.
Joe and I can definitely relate to that. Not to make it about us, but man, you and I missed that Sydney boom of 2013. Missed that Melbourne boom. Missed. I end up catching a little bit of that Brizzy boom, but geez, it took a bloody long time to come around when we bought that. And instead of because of developing, we missed a lot of Perth. But no, so can 100% relate. And then it's like you can kick yourself and say, well, I'm not going to take action now because it's already moved. I can't. There's nowhere I can buy. But instead, you just said, okay, it's going to happen. It's now's the time. Not now or never. But yeah. So what did you then sort of? There you go, Joe.
Well, no, because I feel like there's a little bit of a gem here in your mortgage broker and your mentor really helped you unlock some things. Like, what are some of the questions our listeners can be asking their mortgage broker to avoid these like no situations, or kind of pull out the best value from their mortgage broker to know if they're the right fit for them? How did you kind of get it out of them or get the right advice? Like, what questions can they ask their guys?
Well, I think something a lot of people get wrong is that they will try and link up with a broker when they want to buy. You should be linking up with a broker well before then. So I have like a regular line of communication with our mortgage broker, and I touch base with her to let her know what our future plans are and what we're doing, and just to make sure that that's all going to line up. The broker that we use now, she is very like investment focused. So like
Okay.
I didn't ask so many questions because I don't know numbers. I don't know, but like I had just a discussion with her, and she really reassured me because the way that she was talking and the things that she was actually educating me on reassured me that, like, you know, when she was talking about trusts and you know, like, I don't know, a hell of a lot of smart stuff that
Were
I
there
don't
any red
totally
flags that the other
understand.
were there any red flags that the other guys were kind of showing you? Like, oh, looking back, obviously, duh. Like my first broker experience was I
Oh,
just walked into the local branch of I forgot what I don't know, Rams or whatever, and just spoke to the first guy there, and he's like, "Yeah, mate, look, I know all about this whole investment thing." Oh, great. Do you have any investment properties? Nah, but I really know investments. I'm like, oh, okay, great. And then yeah, terrible
yeah,
loan product. It
yeah.
was principal and interest and it didn't suit what I wanted. But yeah, any red flags that you noticed?
Oh, definitely. Like when I talked about the amount of accountants we've been through, one of the accountants we went to, they apparently were also mortgage brokers,
Oh yeah.
and they were the
Oh,
ones that were
okay.
telling us that they would be able to save us on tax but get us that sweet spot. They actually just gave us the loan documents, and it was for one of the big four, and just got us to fill it out. And Murray kept saying to them, well, how much can we borrow? And they're like, oh, well, the bank will
Yeah.
tell us. And we just didn't know. We were going into like unknown territory, and it was so frustrating because, as you know, every time you put in an application and it gets knocked back, that goes it's like a mark on your credit rating.
Yeah.
So whereas my broker now, she has connections in the banks, but she can talk to them. So she is like 99.9% positive that we can get lending before she hits that submit on our application, because she's got, you know, she's been able to run everything by them already. It's not just the worst thing I think you can do is just throw an application out there and just hope for the best, because it's just going to come back to bite you.
It shouldn't be about the guesswork, really. It's about, well, what because particularly these days you can actually get very clear instruction from the lenders, well, what's going to fit their criteria and what's not going to fit their criteria. That is a massive red flag. If a broker's just saying, okay, I think this is a good application, I don't like that. I think it's like, well, what research have you done? What are the policies of that lender? How are you crunching those numbers? Are you confident that fits that lender's criteria? These are the kind of that would be a massive. What you said there is really concerning if I'm chatting to a broker. What I wanted to ask was, do people? Because I think it's an interesting one, particularly for you as well. Does your broker actually proactively reach out to you and say, "Are you ready to buy again?" I reckon your broker might reach out to you. Or they don't.
Oh, I don't think she needs to, because I harass her regularly enough. She will send the occasional email just to check up on things, but I usually give her quite a thorough rundown of what our plans are each financial year. And we knew that this financial year, because Murray had gone away to do a renovation on the Rockhampton property for 6 weeks, and we'd also finished renovating this house at the start of this year, our income wasn't as high as the year before. So we knew that we weren't going to be buying this financial year, and except for, we might get a deal through if we get this sale done on this property soon. But yeah, so she already knew our plan. She had no reason to reach out to me.
No. And so, let us know in the comments. Have you ever had, because I want to hear that, because I don't think that, I've occasionally, Wirebrow does reach out, but stop beating around the bush and name drop. Well, I don't know. I don't think we need to name drop who the broker is. I mean, it's up to you if you want to mention the broker, Esther, but there's amazing brokers.
Well, I know she's our wonderful broker. Her name is Jacqueline, and she works at Wisdom Finance, but she's not taking on new clients.
Lucky you didn't mention her name.
That's not a bad thing either, actually. That usually means that they
know. It's
they know how much capacity they can handle.
She's got a lot of other people that work under her, but she's also a financial advisor. So I think her books are full, but I would definitely recommend reaching out to Wisdom Finance for investing loans.
Sorry, Joe, go on. I got geeky with the broker talk. We'll get on to other properties.
Yeah. Well, how did you think? Has your mindset shifted on principal and interest only loans? Like, how do you now think about those?
We only pay interest only on our investments. The reason being is that if we've invested well, we're not like going to pay off our loans with our day-to-day wage. We're not going to pay off our loan week by week. Like if we've invested well, those properties are going to pay themselves off. So yeah, I'm like adamant. I won't pay P&I on an investment. I'll only pay P&I on our own, like PPR home loan.
Do you want to kind of unpack what that sort of, because I think there's something super powerful in what you said for some people. I could sort of articulate it, but do you sort of, what are your thoughts around the investment's going to pay itself off interest only? Like, how do you come to that conclusion?
Well, our strategy long term, which is, a tried and true strategy, and why we're sticking to it because we've seen other people do it successfully, is to accumulate as many properties as we can. To start with, we needed to accumulate properties that were in a growth zone, but also had a fairly good yield because of our servicing. Those properties long term should grow enough in equity that then we sell off a number of them and pay down the debt on everything else. So we pay everything in a lump sum from the sales of a number of the properties, rather than, you don't, honestly, like who wants to pay? You're just going to compromise your day-to-day lifestyle if you're paying P&I week by week. It just seems like a no-brainer.
Well, also the thing is, I think where a lot of people get stuck with this is that they don't realize how much control they have of the cash, right? It is having P&I principal and interest loans doesn't mean that what it means is you've just locked away the money. It doesn't mean you can't put that money away yourself, have access to the liquidity, and then be able to use that cash on a renovation instead of going back to the bank. So like an example, $500,000 loan at a 5% interest over 30 years. Monthly repayments is $2,684. So a large chunk of that is going towards principal, right? That's interest only, $2,083. So I did these numbers before. I was chatting with another investor about this exact situation, because they're like, look, my cash is getting really tight. I'm like, great. How many properties you got? Oh, I've got 4. They're all on principal and interest. I was like, Jesus, that's a lot of monthly cash flow. Like, $601 a month from shifting from principal and interest only. So if you just take that $600 a month and put it into your offset account, it's doing exactly the same thing as if you're paying down the loan. So why not have access to that cash? So it reduces it massively.
I do like this comment from Brian. He said discipline is required, and I tend to agree. The other thing that you will come across is a lot of lenders, and I just wanted to be the party pooper. I'm occasionally the party pooper, maybe a lot of the time, is that a lot of lenders, if you're interest only, then if you've got a 5-year interest only loan, what will happen is let's just say it's a 30-year loan, they'll then factor in principal and interest over 25 years. So it's actually hurting, not with all lenders, but I would say probably the majority of lenders, it's hurting you. Yeah. So, but what you can do though, and that's where your broker, Jacqueline or Wisdom, I don't mean to plug her again, but any really good broker should know that there's probably about 4 to 5, maybe a bit more these days, I don't know exactly, but between 5 and 10 lenders where you can actually take, some of them will take actual repayments. So it can improve your borrowing capacity. So yeah, that's it. But then it comes down to Brian's point. You can also just
refinance. Once that interest only period is up, you can refinance with someone else. So
you can, yeah. So there's a couple of different ways. But no, I just wanted to jump into that.
Yeah, you'll be doing that throughout the journey as well. Like what's exactly so the Oz property portfolio, for those that don't know, we're building $150,000 passive income. We bought 4 properties in 6 months, and we just had an interest rate drop. Our broker reached out to us and was like, guys, have you thought about not refinancing, but getting better rates? I'm like, great, let's do it. Let's chat to the banks. And I'm not doing it. You do it. And he said, yeah, that's what I do. And I was like, oh, good. Okay. I'm glad I don't have to make those calls. So we're going to get kind of head up with a discount on our loan, which is going to save thousands of dollars a year. just by making that phone call. But then what we may end up doing is, as the values of our properties have increased, we may have bought some of the LVRs are at 90%. So that means, I'll just bring the numbers up and I can tell you exactly what it is. So we bought one of the properties at a 7.26% interest rate, and that was at a 90% lend. So if we take it into 80% because the value is increased, it means that we'll get a discount, a massive discount, because we'll be able to go to a different bank and get a far better interest rate. So instead of 7.26, it might be 6.6. Which will save us many more thousands of dollars. And then we'll apply for interest only, and then we'll get that interest only period again for another 5 years continuing. And if we did this in year 3, year 4, great, refinance, another 5-year interest only period. But again, it is still a balance, because that serviceability does become a factor that you need to consider. If the broker is like, no, you can't, you do need to shift some of them. We need a balance. There's always a balance of cash and equity and things.
Yeah.
Wasn't really
and while we're talking interest rates and interest rate and lending, most of our investment purchases, we bought them with lended with a second tier lender. And so many people are so scared of stepping away from the main banks. They're like, oh, the bigger interest rates and this and that. It's not supposed to be long term. You purchase with these second tier lenders just to get the deal done. And if you've bought the right property, you can then refinance down the track. The way I see it, I think the highest interest rate we purchased on was like 9-something%. But that's maybe cost us, how much? Yeah, but these are cheap properties. Like, we weren't buying, top tier properties. These were like,
right.
I think the most we've paid for one is $380. So
wow.
The repayments, they're not that high anyway. No. And the way I see it, you pay a little bit extra in interest, but if you've purchased well, they grow. So it's like, well, how much extra interest are you going to pay in a year, and how much growth do you get in that property? You're actually getting more growth.
Put it in perspective to highlight your point. Let's just say you had a 300 loan, 300K loan, interest only on 7%, which is 714.21. So you're paying 21,000 interest. If you pay 9%, that's 1927. So you're paying an extra 6,000 in interest on that $300,000 loan. Let's just say, so 6,000, and let's just say you bought really, and let's just say you bought really well.
Played out.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I do mental arithmetic for fun at parties sometimes. But no, so somebody sort of then say, let's just say you grow 20% on that, and let's just make it 400K to make it easy for me. On 400K, 20%, you're making 80,000 to spend. So an extra 7,000 you're making. So you're basically making 8 to 10, more than 10 times that. And you're not going to say it's always going to happen, but that's, I don't know if that's not getting people excited. And property doesn't always go up.
No, but if you're doing your research and your due diligence well, it should be going up.
Hopefully. Yeah, that's right.
So that exact scenario that you were just talking about, we the last property we purchased was in July 24. That's the one we paid $380 for. Bought it on a higher interest rate. It's grown already 50, 60K. So it's like you pay an extra $7,000 to make $50,000.
Yeah,
probably.
I mean, I'm not a numbers girl. I'm not great with numbers, but I know I'd be very happy to give someone $7,000 to get 50 back. That just seems like.
I think it's actually stripping it back and making it as simple as that at times, and where people get really, I know some incredibly smart people, and then they're like, no, but the spreadsheet, and then they create this one. I've got a waterfall of funds transfers and things. I'm like, what are you talking about? Just it's, you're buying it for X, you're getting it for Y, and you're buying it under the value of what the bank is actually valuing it. You're literally making a boatload of money in that. But one of the things is that you said there, Jeff, is $6,000, right? That's $115 a week in rent. That $6,000 a month. $6,000 a year divided by 52 is $100 a week, isn't it? Pretty good. 115 roundabout. Someone do the math, hopefully. So someone.
I hate maths. I get math anxiety.
Yeah, we don't do
Big fan of
public
that
math
stuff.
here, but I've done it. Yeah, $115
I
a
don't
week.
like
I was
maths.
right. But one of the questions is now with the property portfolio, you kind of have to do a little bit of math. But how do you think about cash flow? Like the answer surely isn't earn more to be able to afford these things. Like how does cash flow come into play for these deals that you're purchasing? How do you think about it?
Like cash flow as in our income, or cash flow as in like the rent?
Well, cash flow is like the managing the entire portfolio, right? Like, how do you think about the cash flow for the portfolio and how to manage it?
I think you just need to, like you were saying, like try and simplify it. So I just have a separate bank account for each property, and the rent goes into that property. I have it this simple. I have alarms on my calendar for each day that the loan payments are due to come out. And if the rental income hasn't matched up with that day, I make sure that I move money there before the loan comes out. And each account for each property, the rent goes into that and everything's paid out of it. I just try and
why do you have a separate, why don't you just put 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand, 10 grand rather than have it like that sounds annoying. That's annoying to me. But like,
yeah, it is annoying.
But what? Yeah, no one's denying how annoying that is.
Sometimes it is annoying, but like when you're self-employed and you're on a smaller size, like the money is like this. It's like waves. So like that 10 grand might need to be somewhere else in that time frame, and then it comes back in.
Yes,
and
you got
put it where
GST, you got to pay, you got to pay payroll,
needed.
maybe payroll tax, all these good.
And you've also got
we don't
got an owner.
We just work for ourselves. We don't like hiring anyone. It hasn't worked out well.
You've got
and also you've
got an owner occupier.
Yeah,
you got an owner occupier.
So right? And we're still very much like I'm not saying that I'm a successful investor. We're still very much in the early stages of our investing journey. We're still very much in the early stages. Like we're not there yet, not where we want to be by a long shot. So there's a lot of learning along the way. And yeah, just trying to adjust to things as they're thrown at us, and
so I'm
just constantly reassessing where we're at.
I thought the answer to the question was going to be because we've got a principal place of residence, and it's better to have all of our cash offsetting our principal place of residence debt rather than our investment debt.
I think that's what.
Well,
Esther
if we've got excess, I'm a bit of a roundabout way sometimes when I explain things, but it's like the cash is where it needs to be when it's there. Yeah. But any excess savings we have are in the offset for our primary place of residence. So, it's our main priority, like long term, is to pay off this home we're in now and have cash flow from remaining investments. So like
I think that's what we call the
ultimate goal.
I think that's the ultimate wealth goal. I love it. You're even using the terminology. So that's what we call that for us. That's what you want. You want I'm not saying you should, not financial advice, blah, blah. But you've got no debt and you've got the ability to have that cash flow coming in. No debt from the PPOR, and you've got the cash flow you need to support your lifestyle. And that way you don't need to paint another kind of that tough wooden thing. If somebody, I don't know what that's called, but the thing I wouldn't ever want to paint that. It just looks ridiculous. Like the amount of kind of preparation you'd have to do on that wooden sort of timber sort of thing to paint that up. I would just not even bother. I'd be like, geez, I'm probably just not going to buy that house.
No, someone's got to do it. That's why we don't want people to do it, because then that's how we kept in a job. You're going to hire us to do it. Like if everyone wanted to do it, then we wouldn't have a job.
Exactly. What I wanted to know, so we sort of talked about, so we've got to property number 3, I believe, in Bundaberg. Rockhampton.
Rockhampton. Yeah.
It was Rocky, so I was right. So where are you going for number 4 and number 5? There's a couple more deals. So I'm sure people want to know where you purchased and
Well, the original property we bought in Rockhampton, I love buying in a old country area, you link up with like the older agents. That's our favorite thing to do, is find like the original agents that have been there forever. Really quite interesting though is that one of the original agents in Rockhampton apparently owns 700 houses there. So I think that his real estate agency is actually just selling his own houses. He must just do it for fun. Anyways, on that note, so we purchased the first property from this agent, not the one who has 700 properties, but another one who's been in Rockhampton forever. Really awesome, grounded country bloke. And then I approached him. I said, we want to buy another investment property. And he sent me this one. It was pre-market, like off market. And originally I was like, nah, not interested. I messaged him again a couple of weeks later and it was still there. Like they were just like, oh, we'll sell it if it sells. So we actually bought the 2 houses in Rockhampton from the same agent. Really good to deal with. Really just, yeah, loved it. Not like our experience buying here at home at all. That house was on almost 900 squares with Jewel Street frontage. Really big, just block-shaped Queenslander thing. It had a sunroom at the front and it was 2 bedrooms. So we had the sunroom converted into a 3rd bedroom and replaced all the carpet in the house. And I think that was it. There was a couple of other maintenance things, but it wasn't huge. But adding in that 3rd bedroom, I think that took the rent from about $350 to $400 a week. And it's now at $450 a week, that property. So we're keeping that one because that was a layered strategy. We got that one for $275. It's now valued at about $380.
Where is it? In Rock,
Ugly
380
Duckling
for 900 squares. Is it in a flood zone?
2.8. It was 2. No, because this was in what year was it? It was before Rocky got really hot. This was in, let me see if I written it down, 2023.
Oh, yeah, still pretty hot
2 years
then.
ago.
I mean, it was hot. I mean, it was, kind of warm.
But we had our beautiful original country agent.
How did that negotiation go? Like maybe hold back a few kind of details on who the agent, because we don't want to people to be watching.
Well, like, I mean, I'd built a bit of rapport with him. So he knew that we were very serious buyers, and being an original agent from the area, he's already comfortable. He's not trying to break records. Not like the younger, the younger agents, like you deal with them when you have to, but our sort of strategy was like, oh, we love, old mate, because he doesn't want to break records. He just wants to sell a house and he's happy because he's seeing it as a record because of he's been there since houses were like, $50K.
It's such a good
so
point.
I've just been really quite honest, and I think you don't want to play games too hard with them. You want them to know that you're a legitimate buyer, that you're not mucking around. You want to buy. We don't see our investing as investing in houses, which is why we go for like the ugly houses. They're not nicely presented. We're investing in areas, locations. So we'd never buy in a flood zone. I'm sure you've heard it, like how many agents try to convince you. They're like, oh, yeah, it's in the flood zone, but the water's only going to come up to the back step. It's like, well, old Cyclone Alfred out there, he might take it up a bit higher next time. I would never, ever buy in a flood zone, regardless of whether water's ever come in the house. So, yeah, we were just very straightforward and honest, and just can't be emotional. You can't let your emotions come into it. Just sort of stuck to our guns about what we had to spend, and an honest seller that just wants to get out of something and have a deal done. And you just got to keep trying. Like, you win some, you lose some. You're not going to get them all.
And it was. And actually, were there some deals along the way that you lost? Like you put forward offers and you, too much, or what was the process looking like when you were going out there and buying? No, Alfred's struck already.
I'm not very intimidated by this cyclone. I mean, I probably shouldn't say all this, but Alfred
but you're
just
not in
doesn't
Brisbane, are
strike.
you?
Yeah, well,
Alfred's not a
it could,
threatening name, no.
it could come down to, yeah. He was one of the original kings of, or one of the few kings of England, I suppose. I think he was, yeah. Anyway, won't go and do. I mean, I've watched a bit of Viking show, probably too much. But so mate, what are you? Yeah, it's just amazing hearing Esther in her, she just essentially nailed a lot of the, like, make sure you're a serious buyer and make it happen. Like, show that you can pull a trigger. Like, you're not like, oh, like, give me 4 days to think about it. Like, what are you sort of taking from Esther's negotiation and deal framework she had there?
Well, what I'm taking away from the entire conversation is that she's constantly not necessarily asking questions, but just seeing strategies that work and then taking advantage of those strategies as they've come up, and like layering, like what you just mentioned there, Esther. You're layering. You bought the first property as a renovator and that was it. Now you're like, no, we want to buy a renovator that has extra land, that has dual street frontages. And now that means we're not going to flip it as a renovator to go for the next one. And you keep just like adding on these extra things, extra kind of weapons in your repertoire to be able to keep making more money and keep doing it.
Yeah.
So could we ask this, because Adam's asked it several times. So he's been persistent. So given that we're talking persistent, were those 3 or 4 properties in 1.5 years on the same trust, separate or a mix? Like, we're not saying that
All
this is the way
separate.
people should do it. All separate, yeah. And was
All
that
separate. But that was because of our personal circumstances. Our borrowing capacity was very, very, very tight. We couldn't afford to buy more than one property in a trust. So yeah, you need your creative broker, financial advisor can talk to you about that.
Yeah. Have you got like cash buffers set aside for things? Like, how much kind of, like, do you think, like, in a percentage or an amount of money? Like, how do you manage like the bills and unforeseen stuff and things along the way? How do you think about that?
Even purchasing these properties on a higher interest rate, they've all been pretty close to neutral from day one. So I'd like to try and keep aside $5,000 per property. But like I said, the money's moved where it needs to be moved. If there's like, summer in North Queensland, every single air conditioner decided to break. So, we were... But we've been, we purchased well and we purchased at a good time. So those properties have basically been holding their own from day one, like minor improvements on each of them. But yeah, it was so that strategy where we were at then.
You don't put a percentage to it.
Just got to make sure, as long as you've got, like, it's about your comfort level as well. And what your position is. Like, obviously people that are on pay G, they're in a very different situation to us. We've got, like, my broker calls it lumpy income. So it comes in lumps and then the lumps get smaller and then another lump will come. So like the way that we manage things is probably quite different to how someone who knows exactly how much money they've got coming each week would manage it.
And just on the tactical sort of side of you said small improvements, are you able to sort of form those relationships with tradies in the area to sort of say, okay, we're a tradie, like we kind of have some idea, like let's kind of, team up, or you weren't really able to do that sort of thing?
No, we've very much let our real estates do that for us. Our first purchase in Rockhampton, I actually sacked the rental manager. I was not happy with that property manager. I was not happy with their communication. Came out things that weren't communicated to the tenants correctly and not communicated to me. And I basically gave her like a 3-strike, you're out, and got rid of her. And I ended up getting a fantastic property manager. If I can give a shout out. Can I give a shout out to our property manager in Rockhampton?
Yeah. Nice.
Elizabeth from Elite Real Estate.
Elizabeth Hood.
Oh, Elizabeth Hood, amazing. So good. All of her team just been so fantastic to deal with. And so we actually got them to manage any of the repairs and works that we needed done. So the second property we bought in Rockhampton is the one that we had to get the extra bedroom put into and stuff like that. So she managed all of that for us. The original property, Murray went there last year and spent 6 weeks there and did a full interior exterior repaint. And that's the property that we've currently got on the market, and it looks just absolutely stunning. He did a roof restoration, changed some bench tops in the kitchen. The laundry had like carpet in it, which was revolting, that had dead rats under it.
Oh.
And so he ripped all of that up and he re-concreted it, painted all the concrete. Like, the property just looks immaculate. So that was extremely tough having him away for so long.
It would be with a couple of kids.
Yeah.
Bloody hell.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
I want to ask this one, and then I reckon we go to sponsor, and I want to round out with some more high level, interesting questions, and even some questions you want to just drop some knowledge
questions
on.
in, people.
But so sorry if I missed a bit. How do you, like, what are the things you're looking at when locating the right property? Like, what area? What are some of those things the mentor instilled upon you to look at in areas?
Oh, he says where there's mess, there's money, and that's something we love. You got to take your rose, like. You have to put on your rose-colored glasses. If you're looking for a pretty property, you're going to be up against every other person looking at that pretty property. Our main thing is that it's solid. It's been built well. It's got to pass the pest and build. And we will not purchase in flood zones. You don't want to purchase in a zone that comes up as being in a bushfire zone. One of the main reasons for that being that you're going to pay higher insurance. You want to pay less insurance.
Not that it's going to burn down.
So,
that's not
yeah. And another thing that I see a lot of people will be like, oh, well, this property is on a main road. This property is like the one that we bought. The second one we bought in Rockhampton is 2 doors down from a service station. It's still grown $100,000 in less than a year. So I'd say, like, what our budget dictated, we couldn't buy the premium properties. If we were like wanting to buy the brick and tile in the beautiful neighborhood that was all done up, we couldn't afford that. But our properties are still going up in value. They're still going up.
Yeah. How did you determine suburb? Like, how did you just say, yeah, okay. What suburbs are you comfortable sharing the suburbs? Like, how did you come up saying, no,
so
this suburb, or was it like Frenchville, Kwinana, maybe Berserker,
Norman
like,
Kungl, maybe?
Yeah. Everyone was talking about Frenchville, and our budget couldn't get us in Frenchville. Like I said, our first house was under 250. We found a house in Berserker very, very close to the Frenchville boundary. So that's something we've done. We've looked at like really good suburbs, and then we try and find the neighboring suburb. We think that gentrification is going to like flow over into that suburb. The closer you are to the nice suburb, if you can't buy in that nice suburb, buy close to it.
Yeah. Okay. Get that ripple effect. Ripple effect going.
I love that you've kind of somewhat mirrored our, I mean, not completely, but yeah, you've got that sort of flood as a non-negotiable. That sort of talks to our due diligence checklist, and the one that you sort of absolutely swear by. And I tend to agree, because you're going to pay more for insurance, and anybody who is doing any sort of checks, and these days most people will do those checks. So the next person who buys it, if you buy it at a discount, you're going to sell it at a discount as well. So I don't care what the valuation comes back as. If you ever need to sell that property, which maybe sometimes you will, you're going to then sort of discount that property. So you're paying more in insurance. So what is there's plenty of properties are flood free. So that's something you should really
absolutely
non-negotiable.
Yeah, non-negotiable. But that's a great little. It's your budget that's dictated the outcome, really. Like, your brief has dictated, no, we have to buy Berserker because that's all we can afford at the moment. But we'll buy in the best pockets of Berserker because that's the best of what we can afford. Yeah. So
the other thing, that house had not had anything done to it for like the previous few owners. So there was a lot of value add potential there just with cosmetic uplift. So
So what gives, actually, let's chat to the renovations, because I love renovations. Like, what are some of the best value add things that you've done and do, and what gets you the best return? What's the best bang for the buck? And then also, what are the money suckers that just are a waste of time?
I think people really underestimate how much you can do with paint. Clearly, as I'm a painter decorator, it's amazing how much you can do with a bit of paint. Often, like the first house we sold, we were getting quotes to replace the kitchen. The kitchen needed redoing. It was going to cost us between 8 and 10 grand to do a really, really simple kitchen. I'm telling you, people, if the carcass is solid, you don't need to replace the kitchen. So that kitchen, we painted the doors, put on new door hardware, and we resurfaced the bench top. And it's beautiful. Looked amazing. Looked brand new. Like people thought we'd got in a new kitchen, and it cost us about $800, not 8 grand. So ridiculous. People like shiny things. I would say if you're going to do a cosmetic reno, you want to change your door hardware on all your doors. Like jizz them up to something like, you know, brass or black, or, you know, something a bit spunky.
Make sure it doesn't catch on your pocket handles either, because we're going through chain door handles at the moment.
Yes.
I'm knee deep
That's
in
something
door
that makes you
handles
so angry if you get caught on the door when you're walking past.
It's important.
Light fittings.
I had no idea.
Floor coverings. Oh, Marketplace. Don't get me started on Marketplace. So when the second renovation we did, it had old tiles on the floor. That was one that we had to replace the kitchen, but the carcass wasn't good. It was falling apart. We went on Marketplace, and Murray picked up a heap of vinyl flooring for $250, and we put the vinyl flooring down. So that was fantastic. Something else we really love that just makes an area look a little bit fancy is VJ board. So you can do like a feature wall with VJ board, or in your kitchen on the front of your bar, put VJ board on it.
So for people that don't know, what's VJ board?
It's like just panelled. I can show. Does it show up on here? You can't quite see. You see like the lines, the panels?
Yeah.
That's what VJ board looks like. You can just buy it from Bunnings, and you can just stick it onto a wall, and it makes an amazing feature wall. So it makes, Get
the VJ board on. Nice. Nice. Yeah. Well, and this is a point. So Jeff and I are doing the Oz property portfolio. One of the deals that we bought was a renovation project, and there you go. So it stands for V-join panels. So they're kind of like tongue and groove, snap together. Perfect. But we got quotes. So the first quote was $110,000 for. I don't understand. I looked at the numbers and I'm like, none of this makes sense. Like, why is it so expensive? The next one
never
was
paid $110,000 for that, Joe. Like, if you did that, I might throw something at you.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next one was $90,000 or $86,000. And then the final one that we set on is we need to get the stumps done. Actually, last session 2 weeks ago, like I was like, I need to get the stumps done. So called up the guy, and I'm like, great. Best thing you can ever do is call up a good tradesperson that's done well for you. Do you know any other tradespeople? Yep, I know a guy. Mm-hmm. He's got his mate. It's now going to cost us we did $15,000 for stumping. And then the next one, he has then quoted us $43,000. So 43 plus 15K, $58,000 for this full renovation, fixing a whole heap of stuff to then eventually get us the value of, $620 to $650, somewhere in between there. And we bought it for $530. But you can easily blow the budget. So there's some of the hacks, like VJ board, Marketplace for trades. What about trades? How do we get trades cheaper? Because the human element of it is a little bit tough. Get a Bunnings Power Pass. Yeah, all adds
Yeah.
up. Very good.
Well, we've got our power pass because we've got our business. So
You've got the business, yeah. And also,
when
if
it
you create a
comes to
trust,
trades,
just talking about that Bunnings Power Pass, when you create a trust, it's most likely going to be under a corporate trustee and it will be under a PTY Ltd. So it's like Joe and Jeff's property trust as trustee for Joe and Jeff's property company, right? So then you go to Bunnings and say, hey, I have a company here. I want to buy a whole heap of stuff. Can I have a power pass? And like, yes, you can. So I went, I have a buyer's agency business and I don't buy anything from Bunnings, but I would love a power pass card. And they said, yes, you can have one. But I didn't. I said, look, we do lots of renovations and things like that. And I got one. So yes, you can make that. What are some other hacks and how do you get good trades? I guess is the question I have. Good and affordable trades.
Well, this is hard. See, because my husband and I are tradesmen, and we do a lot of owner-occupier homes. So people know that they're going to get a really good job with us because we've got a very good reputation. We've got a very keen eye for detail. Sometimes with trades, it's like you've got to get that balance of like get what you pay for, not get ripped off. So often, I don't know, you need to talk to them like they're people. We get people ringing us up and talk to us like crap. And we don't want to work for someone like that. We want to work for someone who treats us like a human. So you always want to get multiple quotes and you got to decide what it is that you're renovating for. Like, are you renovating, to add value, or are you renovating your home to live in, to make it feel nice? That's all I know I'm going off a little bit off track here, but that's all going to come into play on the type of tradesman. Like the cheapest quote might come in, but when the tradie comes in to do the quote, he's smells like ciggies and he's got a can of V in his hand, and he's like, you're going to be like, oh, do I really trust this tradesman? Like, maybe I pay the extra money and get the tradesman that wasn't the top quote but came in and was well presented and well articulated. Like, you've got to do what you did with getting the 3 quotes as well. Like, that's 100%. And I don't know, like, hone in on your gut instinct a little. Like I was just saying about the tradie with the can of V and stuff. Like, if something doesn't feel right, like a job that's not done well can cost you a hell of a lot more money. Yeah, you're just paying for it twice. Yeah. And also compliance as well. One of these, we got some quotes for electrical work and plumbing work. And then I'm like, great. Yeah, that's super cheap. A bathroom for $8,000. Okay. Can you send me your plumbing license and certificates and stuff to say that you're a plumber? And then no response. Like, nothing. Obviously he's just exactly. That's the other thing. License together. Yeah. So I'm like, great. So probably not the right fit. Okay, cool. Well, let's shift gears. We got to jump to our ad, and then I want to cover off any questions that people have, and then any other insights. What do you want to go through, Jeff?
I want to talk to what you would instill upon somebody starting today, because I know you're passionate about, I suppose, helping people in your story. So I'd love to hear more about that high level, but whatever you want to chat to as well, Esther, like what questions we should ask you. We will ask you that probably. So be prepared. But let us know your thoughts on Please new ad. I watched it. It's a banger. I love it.
Oh, Jeff, I wish there was 3 investing books that covered everything property.
Oh, Joe, there is. Steve has 3 books now.
That I do, guys. I've got 3 books now. You probably don't even have to follow this group anymore. Just kidding. You want to keep seeing and hearing from me, of course, so stay involved. But in all seriousness, if you want to get the full picture of investing, residential, commercial, and development, these 3 books have you covered for the fundamentals. For OzProp members, here's the best part. I'm giving these books to you for free. Just cover the postage and I'll send them right to your door. Go to policyproperty.com or click the link below and get your copies today. You can also get all my spreadsheets, checklists, and resources free on my website. Happy reading, gang.
Happy reading.
He spelt my name wrong though. Said it with 2 Fs. I think he probably did it deliberately to irk me. But maybe he didn't. Maybe it was his team. But no, I caught up with Liam last week and he signed one for me. He said, "Jeff, thanks for the support. Enjoy the read." And I thought I was going to sign the book for him, but he apparently signed it for me. So anyway, so I've got a couple. I'm going to send some out. So I wanted to know, shifting gears into the portfolio, was there any I don't know if we covered most of the properties. Is there 1 or 2 more we've missed, or
There's 2 more.
Okay, let's do a bit of a cliff notes of the next 2. Give us the bee's knees of it. Oh, it's not. It doesn't make sense.
Right. So after the second Rockhampton purchase, I remember that's quite funny because it was only a month later. So I had the 2 deals on the go. My poor broker, I ring her up and I'm like, yeah, I've got another one under contract. Here you go, work it out. So this one, we always said we wouldn't buy a unit. And then I was like, look, our budget, again, limited. We don't want to buy a 3rd property in Rockhampton. I want to buy a property in Mackay. We knew that, like, for us, the data was sort of making sense there. We couldn't quite buy a freestanding house. Didn't think we'd ever buy a unit. It's not a unit. In a big block, 1 of 3, a little 2-bedroom brick and tile unit in 1 of 3 in a really nice little suburb, Andergrove. It's at the end of a cul-de-sac, like walking distance to the Leagues Club. I'm very precious about this one because it's actually one of my favorites because it hasn't cost us a cent. It just sits there and ticks along. We've got a beautiful little old tenant in there. He'd be, I think he's edging towards 80. He's an ex-war veteran. When we saw the properties, the photos of the property, he's got a very big love of red roses. So he's got red rose cushions everywhere, red rose bedspread. And then in the garage, he had a little personal shrine from his time in the war. I try not to be emotional about properties, but I'm quite attached to him. And I love that house because it doesn't cost us anything in maintenance. It's nothing. So we got that one for $260 and it's now worth about $320. That was,
30% roughly
a year ago. February 23.
So why go for a unit, right? Like your strategy so far has been house with a big, decent sized land. Let's renovate it. House with enough land. Duplex. So didn't have that much land. Then the other one in Rocky would reno with medium land, and then now you got 900 square meters, and now we've dropped down to units. What the? But that's because you're like, yeah.
I wanted to just get a pure growth play. Like we didn't have the spare cash to do another renovator. Like anything that we had bought from them, because the market was heating up so quickly, anything we had bought then, we would have had to spend money on it before it was tenant ready. And we didn't have the cash to do that. We wanted to buy in the Mackay market, but again, we didn't have the cash to buy anything more expensive or to take on something that needed money spent on it. So for us, this one, we're like, I wouldn't buy in a big unit block, but it was like in a small complex of 3, in a flood-free suburb, in a really well-maintained building. The yield was quite good. I think that's on $400 a week now. And like I said, we paid, $260K for that. It was just purely like we knew that come end of financial year, we wouldn't be buying any more properties coming into the next year. So it was like, okay, I was sick in bed, just hyper fixating on property, ringing agents, sending emails, and I just, wanted to get a deal done and got it done.
Sounds like my Friday night. Some Friday nights, jeez, just
Yeah.
laying sick in bed, hyperventilating about property. It's like, oh, jeez, what do I do now?
Yeah, pretty
It's
much.
exciting. Like, how good is that? That you've come back, you've got the thirst, and you can't stop. And you've still managed to pick an area. Yes, units, not a massive, but they can serve their purpose in people's portfolios, and you've still seen some growth from it. So good on you because they're more affordable. So the last property you bought recently, what did that one look like?
That was, again, dual street access. This one was 1,100 squares, and we purchased in Maryborough. So our strategy has quite often been to buy in like a regional centre near a sort of really booming coastal centre. So with Rockhampton, we've got Yeppoon, and everyone was saying, oh, Yeppoon's the next Noosa, like it's a bit bougie. With Maryborough, we've got Hervey Bay, which is quite a popular area as well and a bit more expensive. But we like buying in regional farming centres where, like, you're always going to need food. You're always going to need farms. So
Can't argue with that.
it's can't like the growth in them isn't going to be the same as a capital city, but they have to grow. People need places to live. The house in Maryborough was up on a hill. It was near the hospital, and it was 1,100 squares on a corner block. The house was pretty sad. Beautiful big house, like it's gorgeous house, but like I think one of the doors, someone had graffitied all over it. The walls were all different colors. The carpet was revolting. Again, this one was a older couple that I believe went into a nursing home. So the property went on the market and we got under contract that same day. I'd been looking. One of the best things you can do when you're negotiating is ask an agent what the seller wants. So this was one of those cases where I was like hot on it, because when I'm buying properties, like there's nothing else that's going through my head except for properties. Every moment I've got, I'm checking for new properties to hit the market and calling agents.
I do.
So this was one of those cases.
Refresh and whatever it is. And seeing if they got some coming up.
Yeah. So this was one of the times where like I asked the agent what the seller wanted, and they wanted the same thing as us, which was a quick and easy, fuss-free sale. So we got that one under contract. And then that was at the same time that Murray was in Rockhampton. So we like to do everything all at once, like recording a podcast when there's a cyclone, and 2 renovations at once. Or we've done it multiple times, had 2 renovations on at a time. So this was one where
Murray,
we outsourced.
guess where you're going this week?
Back to finding tradesmen, because we needed to hire someone to paint this for us. So we shopped around. It's great being able to weed things out because we're painters ourselves, and we got a really reliable guy.
Yeah, actually, that's something I always struggle with is painters. How do you know a good painter and a bad painter if you're like remote as an investor? You're like, are you going to do a good job? Or one of the mistakes, like for instance, one of the mistakes that I made is I said to the painter, I'll pay you by the hour and you go ahead and do it.
Nah.
And he just slopped it all on. And then I was like, man, I just had my property manager go through it. This was one of our first deals. And he's like, yeah, cool. I'll fix all of those things. And I'm like, great, please do. And he's like, for an hourly rate. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I've made a mistake here. What are some of the things you can do to help?
Well, definitely don't do an hourly rate. Like they'll be taking like hour-long toilet breaks and smokos the other side of town and everything.
4 Bs an hour, yeah.
Quoted price. So we spoke to a couple of different painters, and this guy, he just relocated from Coffs Harbour. And when I was talking to him on the phone, I could tell he knew what he was talking about. He went through his system, like, the 2 days of prep, the type of paint for the undercoat he used, the recommendations of the colors, although he didn't have to recommend colors because I'm pretty set on what I like.
What's a good color?
He just talked me through his whole
What's a good
systems.
Reno color? What should we be going for?
Oh, my favorite one, what we've done in our own house now, is Whisper White. And that's like a neutral white. You want to go away. Murray has loved all the lexicons for a while, like lexicon quarter and lexicon half. That's more of like a cool, like a blue undertone. I don't like it. It's like hospital white. You want like warmer whites. I think warmer whites are more forgiving of any flaws, whereas like a cooler white will highlight them.
Okay.
And it
Whisper
also...
white. I feel like I've opened a paint can of worms. I feel like I've opened a can of paint, really.
Can of paint.
Also, yeah, a warmer white is going to hide any, like if you've got kids, they touch the walls, they leave dirty finger marks on the walls and stuff. A warmer white, it's not going to show up as quickly. So
that's your Whisper, is it?
I spent a lot of time. Yeah, I spent a lot of time talking to this painter, and he gave us a fair quote. So yeah, we got him in to do the repaint for us.
Yeah, painting is one of those things I don't want to do. Every time I pay a painter, it's my most favorite task to outsource because it is challenging. It is very challenging, and I've started to realize that I'm somewhat of a perfectionist. So like if I did it, it would take me 3 times as long, and I would have to do I've not lined up the tape right. Okay, so that's the final purchase that you made. So it sounded like you're pretty strategic in like also the year that you bought it, like the financial year that you bought it, so that you could optimize your final purchase that financial year. And now we're coming into the new one, and you're buying the Marylebone one. Is that how it worked?
No, that was all in the same financial year. All those.
Oh, right. Okay. Okay.
That was all in 2023.
Last financial year.
Maryborough was in July. So just tipping over into the next financial year. And that was when it settled, but it was under contract in June.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Okay. And has that grown, like that renovation, what has done the heavy lifting for you? Like how much value has the renovations given you, and how much value has the market given you? Like choosing the right property in the right market?
I would not know. All I know is that they're all up in value. So the Maryborough property, we were able to rent that for $510 a week.
Okay.
It's definitely worthwhile. We paid $380 for that one. So that was a little bit more up there. So
380 was a bit up there, was it?
Well, for regional,
Yeah.
Yes.
But that's
well
into the 400s now, the value on that one.
Yeah.
Heavy lifting has been the 100% growth, like the double growth that we've had in the Berserker property, and definitely our PPR. So our PPR that we're in now, we got that well under value. What did we do with this? Well, it's 3-bedroom and it has a studio granny flat out the back, and we added in an extra bedroom, not an extra bedroom, an extra bathroom, and just rejudged the layout of the property and made it pretty. So even with what we spent on this, it's still grown massively in value, but a lot of that was because we got it under market value when we bought it.
Yeah. I think it's a combination of the area plus buying really well. Like you bought an area that was looking like it was going to go well. There was a lot of demand coming into the area, whether it be through buyers, agents, investors, all that kind of good stuff. And then you've just absolutely nailed the agent to buy from rather than the one to sell from or sell through. So a combination of those really, and you've built that, you've become the area expert, knowing those people you want to sort of look at and buy based on your buyer brief as well, your property plan. So I think you kind of nailed the trifecta there. So well done. And then you got value add as well.
You got to be able to move quick. You can't drag your feet. Once you're ready,
literally
to go,
hours,
you got to move quick.
Maybe minutes.
Sorry?
Maybe not minutes. I was going to say hours, but minutes, but maybe
Yeah.
not minutes. You probably have an hour or two.
Yeah, it's incredible how many great deals there are when you move fast, and the ones that hang around are like, oh, okay, this is why it's hanging around. It's bloody rubbish. How do you think about like the season? Like I think about property investing. Like I listen to people that are like, oh, I don't do property investing because it's so much time, energy, and effort. But then I kind of hear what you're talking about here. You're like, I kind of you go hard, and then I don't think
Have a
about
break.
it, and then
The other
yeah,
thing
you have a.
that
What does that look like?
well, for me, because when I obsess over something, like I obsess over something. If I want something, I will just push everything out of the way to make it happen. And not everyone has the time or the insanity to do that. And that's why I say, like, you can't undervalue a good buyer's agent. Like, if people don't have the same energy and obsession as me to do it themselves, just find a good buyer's agent, like yourself, Joe. You know, people they get scared and they think that because you've got to pay, I don't know, people just they obsess over like these fees and numbers, and they don't look at the bigger picture.
Yeah, well, it's just time. Like that's the biggest thing a buyer's agent does for you. It saves you time for you to go out there and do this yourself. So, like, if you've got capacity, time, energy, and effort to be able to do it, absolutely, you can go ahead and do it.
Absolutely.
If you take the right steps and do the right process, and then you'll be able to do it. But if you don't have that time, then yeah, outsourcing it. Like all you're doing as an investor is like, I don't want to make it seem like you're all Warren Buffett's out there, but you're just allocating capital. So it's like, great.
Yeah.
My goal is to get a property that you paid $280,000 for in a growth market that's going to go for, I mean, the Bersica property, what did you pay? So we've now gotten to a point for this Bersica property where we're now selling the Bersica property, that first one. So how much did you pay for it? And then how much reno did you, what do the numbers look like?
So we got that for $235,000. And it's now listed for offers. It went live today for offers over $450, and we had our first offer within an hour for $455.
So
the
that's
renovation on that, I think
$220,000 worth of equity. Value growth, 93%.
Yeah, and
incredible.
You know, we do want to see what we can get for that. I think the market campaign, it'll probably push close to the 500. But another thing with buying is it's really painful, but you can look at the real estate's personal websites. So this property wasn't on realestate.com, it wasn't on Domain, because the sellers were, again, not looking at the bigger picture. They were just pinching pennies, trying to save a dollar where they could. So they only had it on the real estate's personal website, which I able to dig up, and no one else was interested in it. So because they hadn't advertised it well. Whereas when it comes to selling, we go with we go with a really good agent to sell, and you don't try and nickel and dime over your marketing campaign. Our plan is now to sell that. We'll pay down some of the debt on our primary place of residence, and then we will go and buy elsewhere in, hopefully a higher growth market. We're looking at Victoria to get some good growth in the coming years.
Nice. And have you got a certain price range that you're kind of thinking about now? Because the reason you're selling is to release capital, right? Like and borrowing ability and serviceability.
Yeah. And the ultimate goal of paying down debt on our principal place of residence. So this is just the first one where, like, the way we see it, we're going to have, at the end of this next process, we're going to have more debt, but more of that debt will be in our investments. Less of the debt will be in our primary place of residence. And that's what we want long term. We want to leverage as much debt as we can in the properties that can pay it off. Our primary place of residence isn't going to pay that debt off because we don't want to sell it. So when it comes to price point, that's something that I need to talk to Jacqueline about and our accountant. all I know is that where the market is in Victoria at the moment, that we're going to have multiple opportunities down there. You know, I'm hoping that this next purchase will be somewhere between the 400 and 500 mark, because we're going to have a decent amount of cash to put into it.
Yeah, well, and if you're still doing the renovation thing, there's some real renovators down there and actually this is a great point of what happens in market cycles is renovators are really, really cheap in when the market's a little bit slower. But what happens is the renovations start to creep up, and that gap between a good property and a renovated property starts to close. So right now, if you're looking for a renovation type strategy, the Victorian market is like, there is a big disparity.
Right.
Like what we're talking about right now. For the property Jeff and I purchased in the Oz property, we paid $530,000 for it, and it needs a lot of work done. But once it's done, it's going to be $626, so 100 grand, and we're spending, what did I say, 50, 60 grand on it. So we've got, it's not a massive difference, but trying to do that now in Rockhampton, you're going to be buying a $500,000 property that needs $50,000 worth of work, and you're going to buy it for $550. Like that money, just like the numbers,
it's just not going to stack up.
One of the questions that's popped up here is a nice, interesting one. What have you found most challenging with regional properties? And this is one of the things that happens all the time for investors. They go out there and they're scared, right? They're scared of investing in regional locations because they've heard all the stories, they've heard the floods, they've heard of this, they've heard of that, and they're like, oh, I don't know. But really, what are some of the biggest challenges that you've come across with this portfolio?
Definitely. You know, some of the locations we've looked at after a bit more digging around, they were too regional. I think when it comes to buying, hang on, I think my laptop's, I thought it was plugged in. Hang on a moment. Should be.
I think one of the biggest things is getting access to trades. Like if you, like regional for me is just a very, very tough place to be doing renovations at the moment. Like look for professionals, but you're going to be paying a lot of money if you're going to try and do a remote renovation in the regional locations.
The other thing is that in a lot of those regional locations, there are a lot of blue collar workers. There are actually quite a few tradesmen in those areas. You just need to do your, you know, like I said, talk to them and follow you. You don't want like some cowboy coming in to do like your electrical work. You definitely want to connect up with property managers. That's something I connect with property managers before I purchase properties in an area, because again, like networking and talking with them and like make them earn their commission, like make them work. They are from that area. They know what streets you want to avoid. They know what pockets you want to avoid. They know what tradesmen have good names. So yeah, that's something I should have talked about earlier. But yeah, you definitely want to build a relationship with those property managers and let them help you in choosing your trades.
Yeah, I agree. I property managers are the unsung heroes for any investor. Leverage, use them. Don't be a dick at all. They are the hardest working. Like, and this is that's one of the things I've noticed
for what they deal with.
Unreal. I don't understand why anyone wants to be a property manager. To be honest, it is a terrible job. But the amazing ones that are great at it do incredibly well. So it's just finding them. They know all the hot spots and the not spots, and you can gather a lot of information from them. Are there any other kind of fine points? I know you had a lot of points written down. Is there anything that we've kind of missed that we haven't covered off that you would like the investors to kind of take away from this?
I'm trying to see. I've got so much stuff written down. I think like something that's really people need to take on is, you know, everyone says just take action, but don't wait for things to be perfect. If you're waiting for things to be perfect, if you want a property to tick every single box, you're just going to make it harder and harder for yourself. Like if we were looking for the perfect properties, we would have missed out on like $500,000 in equity. Like it doesn't need to be perfect. You've just got to, if you can do it, do it. Obviously do your due diligence, but draw a line about where, your deal breakers are, and like be generous with that line, I think. Does that make sense?
Yeah, be generous with that. Be generous with the line, but have some hard no's, right? No flood zone.
Yeah.
Like there's 1,000 properties in this area. Great. How many are in a flood zone? Okay, that's 500. Great. I have 500 left. Not in a bushfire. Great. 200 left. Great. And then where are the hot spots? Where are the not spots? Great. That's removed. Now there's only 200.
Is it in livable condition? Is it in livable condition? If it's not, do you have the cash to get it in livable condition? Like,
right.
At the end of the day, like you want people living in that house and paying rent ASAP. So you got to be realistic about what your capabilities are and what what you can afford to do as well.
Yeah. Is it livable? What's the cost to get it livable? Yeah.
I just want to say,
it's been a great live session. Thank you.
Yeah, for those, because we want to get the word out there. Sessions like this need to be listened to by more people. So if you've gotten value from this, jump on to Spotify, and we'll be getting more reviews. So, and they've been 5 stars. So jump on and do that. And Esther wants to get the message out there. So drop us a review on Spotify, wherever you listen to it. Love those 5 stars. But yeah, no, it's been amazing, Esther. Thanks for coming on and sharing and being persistent, because you reached out to me back in October or November last year. I believe it was, and you reached out to me a couple of times, and you're like, maybe it was even sort of September last year, and I was just, for whatever. Sometimes people reach out to me, and I must admit, I'm a bit slack. It does, particularly if it's in. So I'm sorry for taking so long to get to you, but but
everyone make sure that you reach out to Jeff. He's the one that actually
and
responds.
reach out again.
So,
reach out
to
again.
Joe and ask him about property education.
Don't be shy.
Yeah. So
reach out to Joe.
Still got some golden tickets. But no, it's been a fantastic session. Thank you for sharing all that stuff. And there's a couple more questions I want to ask, but we may have to have that chat offline.
Just keep talking all night.
Well, I want to understand where do we get some great, what area do you serve from a painting perspective, and give us a plug of the business, because we want to fill that calendar up full of renovators that are keen to go.
Our calendar's always pretty full. We service the Tweed Shire to Byron Bay area. Color Waves Painting and Decorating, the husband and wife team. Like I said, our books are pretty full, but clients are generally pretty happy to wait for us because they're so confident that they're going to get a really good job. So if you want quick and cheap, we're not your people. But if you want a quality repaint done, then give us a call.
I was going to say, reach out to Esther and Murray.
Esther and Murray, my beautiful husband. He's the one that planted the seed about the property investing, and I've just kept it going.
You've kept the embers burning.
There you go.
I really admire us, because there must have been sort of moments where you just thought it just got too hard to invest with a couple of kids and a business that's sort of growing and got a lot of things on. So good on you for just keep making it happen. It sounds like you're only just getting started. So you come back when you get to probably 10 million. Is 10 million a goal that you guys want to get to, or is that?
I don't have like a set figure in mind. I just want to keep scaling. Just see how far we can go. Like, I think goals are great, but I just, like Murray always says, the sky's the limit. You just don't know what you could achieve. So like if someone had said to me 10 years ago, you're going to own 5 houses in 10 years, I would have laughed at them and been like, oh, did I win the lottery? I just had no idea. So I just don't know where we'll be in 10 years. And it's exciting to think of that, because I know no matter where we are in 10 years, it's going to be a better position than we're in right now.
Well, that's it. I mean, property doubles every 7 to 10 years, right? So let's say you have a $3 million portfolio. That's that's $6 million in 10 years that you could potentially have. And that's grown. I mean, already your LVR is probably at 60 to 70%. So if you get to that 6 million, you could literally just do nothing else, hold on to it, get to that 10-year point, sell down half, keep half, and then live off the rental income going forward. Or sell down all of it.
I'll just keep doing things because it's so addictive.
It
It's
might
so
not.
addictive once you work it out.
Yeah, it's as easy as rinse and repeat, right? Esther, this has been a wonderful session. Thank you so very much for your energy into this, and like breaking it down simply. Like it's not a complex thing, this whole property investing thing, but it has life-changing results that you just don't get in many other places if you do it correctly. If you buy in the right property in the right location at the right time and put the hard yards in, and you don't need to have $800,000. You don't need to have $1 million every purchase. You can do it in affordable locations as well. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Well, thanks for coming on, and
thanks for having me. This has been fun.
Thanks, Esther. Well, let's go buy a property.
Cheers.
See you guys later. Have a good one.
See ya.